the process of coming to understand your perception and your experience of reality and truth is very important in communication. Perception is the process of selecting, organizing, and interpreting sensory data, i.e., what you see. If I look out the window right now, I will see a silver maple tree that is just beginning to bud in the spring air. So I can look, I can see, and it helps me make sense of the world. I create a personal picture of the people and objects around me. I hear a wind chime just dancing a little bit in the wind. I hear some birds at the bird feeder. I can listen to sounds, and without looking out the window, I can see in my mind's eye, through perception, my interpretation of the world. The difference between perception and truth is often small, but sometimes very, very large. I have made many, many errors. I like to tell two stories, both of them things that actually happened to me. The first happened in Ecuador. I was riding a horse down a jungle path, and the horse stopped dead in its tracks. I couldn't make it go. I finally got off the horse, walked around front, and tried to lead it by pulling its bridle. The horse wouldn't budge, and I noticed terror in its eyes, and I turned around, and only a couple feet away from me was a giant anaconda snake. The horse probably saved my life by being so frightened because it perceived the snake while I did not. The truth of the situation was there was a deadly snake looking for dinner. I did not perceive the snake until late in the experience, and then had to slowly back away, and the horse, who perceived the snake much faster than I did, probably saved my life. A second experience, I was in my backyard in Redding, California when I lived there, and the grass was getting rather tall, and I saw a large rattlesnake laying in the grass. I went and got a hoe, and sure enough, the snake was just laying motionlessly spread out in the grass. I brought the hoe up over my head, came down as hard as I could, and I just about chopped the head off that rope. Yeah, no amount of perception could change that rope into the snake that I believed it to be. The truth was, it was a rope all the time. A rope one of my grandkids left out in the grass, and the grass had grown up around it. And I simply perceived it to be a snake. My perception was false. So, truth corresponds to reality, what is or what happens in time and space. This is both objective, outside the human, as well as subjective, inside the human. Because reality is complex, both outside and inside people. You have to believe that or act as if it is accurate in order to communicate well. We covered in our theories of language that you have to pretend Aristotle is correct about truth in this way in order to communicate publicly. You may believe something drastically different about truth, but then you can't communicate accurately the actual nature of our universe. You have to at least try to communicate this way. Perception is the way an individual envisions or perceives reality, and perception is dependent on worldview. This is subjective within the human, and it is relative and changing. As soon as I brought that hoe down on the rope, I realized just before connecting, that's not a rattlesnake. That's a rope. My perception changed. Very interestingly, the amount of fear and anxiety of having a large rattlesnake in my yard with grandkids in the house and on the deck, that fear was a real experience. It was a real experience based on an inaccurate perception. Truth is based on and corresponds to the universe as it is in correspondence theory. And you have to act as though that is correct, that Jesus is correct about truth when he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. When he is correct about truth in John 18, that he is the truth, that he corresponds to truth. So this is the primary method of truth in communication. True words are facts, the way things are. True actions correspond or represent to our nature and correctly correspond to the way things are of us in this world. True virtue, such as love, faith, hope, holiness, corresponds to actual, real virtue of love, God's love, not the emotion that many people mistake love to be. True people corresponds to God's nature because we are created in the image of God. Perceptions are based on who we are, our values, our beliefs and systems of beliefs, our listening and observing, our experiences of the past, our needs, both current and past, our motivation, our attitude, our selective exposure. Perceptions are based on who we are and how we experience this world. So what should I do about the gap between perception and truth, perception and reality? I should seek truth relentlessly. I need to allow others to be different, not judge them, but seek the truth as opposed to my truth. I need to use a perception check to listen to others. Ask them what in the world they mean. I need to try to understand others' perceptions without sacrificing my individuality. I can hear somebody else's voice without giving up my voice. I can use intersubjectivity. I need to ask others about their beliefs, thoughts, values, and interobjectivity. Check out others' perceptions. Do they see the same thing I see? Do they hear the same thing I hear? I do that by asking questions. I doubt myself and others to explore, and I can pray for guidance from the Holy Spirit. Those are some of the things I can do about the gap between perception and reality. My perception is largely based on my worldview, and that is a combination of my beliefs, values, and attitudes. Those underlying convictions about the truth of an idea, belief. I can't believe something I don't think is true. I have values, deeply rooted tendencies to hold something as vital, as important, as significant, and it's usually developed from clusters of beliefs. And I have attitudes, predispositions to think or behave as a person. These add up to my worldview through the use of language, and that helps me understand my perception and seek the truth. So, what to do about perception and truth? Seek truth.